Hello and a very warm welcome to Cognito Key. Today, we're going to uncover the secret architecture of something that's absolutely essential to all life, fats. You might know them as lipids, and trust me, they hold a fascinating secret about how you, me, and everything alive is built. But have you ever stopped to think about this? Our bodies are what? About 60% water? And yet they're packed with fats and oils, which, as we all know from salad dressing, just do not mix with water. So how in the world does that work? How does our body manage this incredible biological puzzle? Okay, let's get right into this puzzle. The whole problem starts with the fact that lipids are largely hydrophobic. Now, that's just a sciencey way of saying they are water-fearing. So when you drop them into a water-based place, like our bodies, they don't just dissolve. Nope. They stick together and form their own separate little structures. So if they hate water so much, how are they possibly one of the building blocks of life? Well, the answer is just so elegant. The solution is built right into the lipid molecule itself. You could almost say it has a kind of chemical split personality. And this brings us to the hero of our story, the amphipathic lipid. This isn't just a fancy term to remember. It is the absolute key to understanding how life is structured, right down at the molecular level. It's a real game changer. So, what does amphipathic actually mean? Well, it describes a single molecule that has two totally opposite feelings about water. One part of it is hydrophilic, which means it loves water, and the other part is hydrophobic, which, as we know, means it fears water. Picture it like this, okay? Every single lipid molecule has a polar head that's totally happy to hang out with water molecules. But then it has this long, nonpolar tail that wants to get as far away from water as it possibly can. And it's this tug of war inside the molecule that forces them to arrange themselves in some very specific, very clever ways. Now, what's so fascinating is that these molecules don't just clump together in a random mess. Oh no. They follow a very particular set of rules to build the complex structures that make all life possible. So, for this amazing self-assembly to happen, three conditions have to be met. First, you need enough of these lipid molecules, all packed together, a certain critical concentration. Second, it needs to be warm enough for them to move around. But the biggest, most powerful factor of all? It's the hydrophobic effect. That relentless, powerful push for the oily tails to escape the water. And this really gets to the heart of it. The source material puts it perfectly. This hydrophobic interaction is the main engine that both forms these structures and holds them together. It's this constant push away from water that literally shapes our cells. Amazing, right? So once these rules are met, what do the lipids actually form? Well, it turns out that the specific shape of the individual lipid molecule decides the final shape of the group. Let's take a little tour through this gallery of lipid architecture. It's actually a beautifully simple idea. As you can see here, lipids with just one tail tend to be shaped like a cone, and when they get together, they form these spherical things called micelles. But on the other hand, lipids with two tails are more like a cylinder, and they line up to form flat sheets called bilayers. Let's look at our first structure, the micelle. I want you to imagine a tiny, perfect little sphere where all the lipids have pointed their water-fearing tails inward. They create this protected, oily center, while all their water-loving heads face outward, totally happy in the surrounding water. These things are incredibly tiny. We're talking just 2 to 20 nanometers across, and they're formed by those single-chain, cone-shaped lipids. Their main job, their key feature, is this perfect arrangement that neatly solves the oil and water problem. The oily tails are hidden, and the water-loving heads are exposed. Problem solved. All right, on to our second structure, and this one is fundamental to all life as we know it. It's the lipid bilayer. So instead of a sphere, I want you to think of a flat, two-dimensional sheet made of two layers of lipids facing each other. This sheet is formed by those two-tailed cylindrical lipids. The two layers, called leaflets, are arranged tail to tail, so the oily parts are all tucked away from the water. But there's a catch. These flat sheets are actually unstable because their edges are still exposed to water, and that instability is what leads them to do something truly remarkable. Because those flat sheets are unstable, they have this natural tendency to just fold back on themselves, and when they do that, they create a seamless, hollow sphere called a liposome. This gets rid of all the exposed edges and creates a much more stable structure. This hollow sphere is the most stable of all the shapes they can form in water, and its key feature is that it traps a small amount of water inside, basically creating a tiny, self-contained little bubble. This ability to carry things is hugely important, not just in biology, but in medicine too. Okay, so we've seen these microscopic shapes: micelles, bilayers, and liposomes. They're pretty cool, right? But why does any of this actually matter? Well, this is where we get to the foundation of life itself. You see that lipid bilayer we just talked about? Its amazing ability to fold up and form a stable, continuous barrier. Well, that's exactly what makes a cell. Every single cell in your body is defined by this simple, elegant structure. It is the barricade that separates everything inside a cell from the outside world. So to wrap it all up, lipids are basically masters of transformation. As our source material puts it, they show polymorphism, which is just a way of saying they can form many different shapes. It is this incredible versatility, all driven by a simple love-hate relationship with water, that builds the very structures of life. It is just incredible to think about, isn't it? That the very architecture of life comes down to these tiny molecules with a split personality, just trying to get comfortable in water. It really makes you wonder, what other secrets are hidden in the molecules that make us who we are? If you found this as fascinating as I did, please subscribe to Cognito Key for more explainers just like this one. And don't forget to like and share it with someone who might be curious too. Thanks so much for watching.